Hello, class. Let us talk about Judaism and the human condition. So in this presentation, we will gain a basic, I repeat, basic understanding of Jewish teachings on the human condition and the human solution. That is, put simply, we will study major themes of Jewish soteriology or teachings on salvation. So with this in mind, let us continue. So according to the book of Genesis, the primordial couple, Adam and Eve, are expelled from the Garden of Eden because they disobeyed God's first commandment. And Adam and Eve are considered to be the mother and father of humanity. So in a sense, all of humanity has been expelled from Eden because all of humanity was born from Adam and Eve. So it is a common human condition. And because humanity has been expelled from Eden, a paradise of immortality, abundance, and divine presence, humanity experiences suffering. Well, what does that mean? Well, instead of experiencing immortality, human beings experience illness and death. Instead of experiencing abundance, human beings must labor for their food, clothing, and shelter. And rather than being within the divine presence, human beings are alienated or separated from the presence of God. So because humanity has been expelled from Eden, they suffer through illness and death, needing to labor for their food, and in addition to that, they are separated from God. So what is the solution to human suffering? Well, in Judaism, the solution is to return to Eden. But how? By following God's sacred law in the Torah. That is, it is by following the laws of the Torah that God provides food, shelter, and clothing, as we learned in our previous presentation. That humanity experiences the divine presence of God, because remember, the law has a sanctifying quality to it, so if you follow the laws of God, you will become holy and thus closer to God. And in later Jewish thought, it is believed that if one adheres to the laws of the Torah, that one will experience the resurrection or some kind of an afterlife. Thus, as God's chosen people, the Jewish people are to be faithful to the law so that they can bring Eden to earth and thus be near to God's presence and generosity. Indeed, this is the logic behind the establishment of the ancient kingdom of Israel in the Tanakh. The kingdom of Israel was to be a holy nation which exists in close proximity to God. But because of human flaw, the ancient Israelites often failed to be faithful to the covenant with God, which according to the Israelite prophets resulted in suffering and persecution. And as the Israelite prophets emphasized, to regain a harmonious relationship with God, the chosen people must return to the law and adhere to it faithfully.